Hey, everyone, welcome back tonight. We're diving deep into the things that haunt us most, not just in the dark, but within our own walls within. Our own family's relationships can be terrifying, let's be honest, but sometimes the terror is more than just arguments, more than just hurt feelings. Sometimes it's something else, something unnatural. Have you ever felt a chill in a room that should be warm? Heard a whisper when no one is there? Maybe you brushed it off, said it was your imagination. But what if it wasn't? What if it was something tied to you, tied to your family, your loved ones? Or maybe someone you used to love, someone who can't let go of. All heard stories of haunted houses, of spirits lingering, but tonight we're focusing on something more intimate, more personal. The hauntings that intertwine with our closest connections. Ghosts that walk beside us, live with us, are a part of our everyday lives. It's unsettling, right? To think that the people we share our lives with could also be sharing it with something else, something unseen, something malevolent. Let's start with Sarah's story. Sarah grew up in what seemed like a normal home, little old, a little creaky, but normal until she started noticing things, small things at first. A door slightly ajar. When she knew she'd closed it, the sound of footsteps upstairs. When everyone was downstairs with her, she told her parents. They dismissed it, old house noises, they said, but the noises became clearer, more distinct. A child's laughter, and then the whispers, her name, barely audible, but always there. Sarah started feeling watched everywhere. She went in the house like eyes were following her. She felt a cold spot in the hallway. Even on the hottest days, her younger brother started talking to someone Sarah couldn't see. He called her the laughing girl. He said she played with his toys. When Sarah asked him to describe her, he said she was sad, but her laugh was happy. This went on for months. Sarah was terrified. Her parents still didn't believe her. They thought she was making it up for attention. One night, Sarah woke up to a feeling of pressure on her chest, like someone was sitting on her. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then she heard the laughter, the child's laughter right next to her ear. She finally managed to gasp for air. The pressure was gone, but the laughter lingered, shaking. She ran to her parents' room. They were finally starting to see the fear in her eyes. They started to listen. They researched the history of their house. Turns out, a young girl had died there decades ago. She had been sick for a long time and often laughed. To hide her pain, Sarah's family moved shortly after that. The activity stopped, but Sarah never forgot the feeling, the laughter in the dark, the unseen presence in her childhood home. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many of us are living alongside something we can't see, something that was once a part of the family, or maybe a stranger who became attached? Let's move on to Mark and Lisa's story. Their relationship was intense from the start, passionate or consuming, but also volatile. They argued constantly. Their fights were legendary among their friends. They always found their way back to each other, until one day, they didn't. A particularly bad fight ended with Lisa leaving. She packed her bags and drove away. Mark was devastated. He regretted everything he had said. He tried calling her, texting her, but she wouldn't answer. Days turned into weeks. Mark was a mess. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't eat. His apartment felt empty, haunted by her absence. Then the strange things started happening. He would hear her footsteps in the hallway, the way she used to walk. A familiar dragging sound would catch glimpses of her in the mirror, a fleeting shadow. Out of the corner of his eye, he would smell her perfume, favorite scent, even though she hadn't been there in weeks. Mark started to think he was losing his mind, was grieving. He missed her terribly. Maybe his mind was playing tricks on him, but the incidents became more frequent, more vivid. One night, he woke up to find the imprint of her body next to him in bed. The sheets were slightly indented, as if someone had just been lying there. Could even smell her hair. He reached out, but there was nothing there. He was terrified. He started sleeping on the couch, afraid to go back into the bedroom. One of his friends suggested a medium reluctantly. Mark agreed. The medium told him that Lisa's spirit was still attached to him, that she was confused, lost. Her sudden departure had left her tethered to their shared space. The medium helped Mark communicate with Lisa's spirit. He told her how much he loved her, how sorry he was for their last fight. He told her it was okay to move on, to find peace slowly. The activity in his apartment started to fade. The footsteps stopped, the shadows disappeared. Scent of her perfume was gone. Mark never forgot Lisa, but he eventually found a sense of closure there. Intense connection had somehow transcended death, leaving her spirit bound to him until he could set her free. It makes you think about the power of our relationships. Deeply, we can affect each other even after we're gone sometimes. Love or even unresolved conflict can create ties that are hard to break. Let's consider a different kind of haunting, the haunting of family secrets. Things that are never spoken, but linger in the air, affecting generations. This is the story of the Miller family from the outside. They seemed perfect, successful, happy, but behind closed doors, there was a darkness, a secret that had been buried for years. The current generation, the grandchildren of the original family, started experiencing strange occurrences in their ancestral home. Visits to the old house were always unsettling, a feeling of unease, whispers that couldn't be explained, objects moving on their own. One of the granddaughters, Emily, was particularly sensitive. She would have vivid nightmares, dreams of a woman crying, a child calling out for help. She would wake up with a sense of dread, a feeling that something terrible had happened in that house. She tried to talk to her parents and grandparents about it, but they would always change the subject. Tell her she had an overactive imagination. The more they dismissed her, the more determined she became to uncover the truth. She started researching the history of her family, digging through old documents, talking to distant relatives. Slowly, she pieced together a tragic story. Years ago, a young woman, a relative they never spoke of, had died in the house under mysterious circumstances. There were rumors of abuse, of neglect. The family had tried to bury the truth, pretend it never happened. But the energy of that trauma had remained in the house, manifesting as the strange occurrences. Sadness that Emily felt, the unanswered cries in her dreams. Once the truth was brought to light, once the family finally acknowledged the tragedy, activity in the house began to subside. It was as if the spirit of the young woman could finally find peace. Her story had been heard, her suffering acknowledged. This kind of haunting isn't about ghosts in the traditional sense, but about the lingering effects of trauma, of secrets that fester and poison families. The past can leave its mark, not just on our memories, but on the very spaces we inhabit. Sometimes, the most terrifying hauntings are the ones we inherit. The emotional baggage passed down through generations. Unresolved pain that echoes through time. Think about your own family. Are there things that are never discussed? Unspoken tensions? Old wounds that haven't healed? Could those things be creating their own kind of haunting? A feeling of unease, a sense that something is not quite right. Our relationships, both living and past, have a profound impact on us. They shape who we are, they influence our emotions, and sometimes they can even invite the supernatural into our lives. Consider the story of David and his overbearing mother. Their relationship was always strained. She was controlling, manipulative. Even after David moved out and started his own life, she found ways to interfere. She would call him, constantly criticize his choices, try to guilt trip him into doing what she wanted. David felt suffocated by her presence in his life, even when she wasn't physically there. Then, after she passed away, things got even stranger. David started feeling her presence in his apartment. He would hear her voice nagging him, criticizing his cooking, telling him he wasn't taking care of himself properly. He would find things moved around, his belongings rearranged just the way she used to do it. It was like she was still there, still trying to control him. Even in death, David was tormented. He couldn't escape her influence. It was as if her spirit was still clinging to him, unable to let go. Their unhealthy relationship had created a bond that even death couldn't break. This story highlights how toxic relationships can haunt us. Even after they end, the emotional scars can linger, and sometimes, in rare cases, the presence of the other person might linger as well. Riven by unresolved issues, by a need for control, or simply by an inability to move on it, makes you wonder about the energy we create in our relationships. Emotional residue we leave behind. Can that energy become something more? Something tangible? Something that can haunt the living? Let's explore a different angle. What about when a place becomes haunted by the memory of a relationship? Think about a home where a couple shared many happy years, and one of them passes away. The remaining partner might feel their presence everywhere, hear their laughter, see their favorite chair empty. Is this just grief? Or is it something more? Watch out, part 2.